So the Greek digital nomad visa has become one of the most popular digital nomad visas on the market. How do you get the visa? Is it worth it? And what are some tips and tricks? Let's jump in and find out. So back in September of 2021, the Greek legislature adopted 4825, which essentially created all of the framework for digital nomads to go to Greece, live there full time, work remotely, and call that beautiful country their home. This visa has been known by several different names, whether it's the Greek digital nomad visa, whether it's the nomad visa, the Greek remote work visa. They're all pretty much the same thing and they fall under the 4825 framework. So let's just start at the beginning. What is it? It's a residence permit that essentially lets you stay in Greece for up to a year while working for a company outside of Greece. Or if you own your own company, you can also live and work in Greece, but there's a little bit more that you have to prove to show that you're not deriving value from the Greek economy. Who's it for? It's basically for non-European citizens who want to live and work in Greece. Where do you apply from? You can either apply from inside Greece or from your home country. In my experience, when I tried applying from outside of Greece, I found that things were a little bit easier, but getting that initial appointment was pretty difficult. I had to be pretty relentless in calling consistently, leaving messages and emailing and following up on my email threads in order to actually get a response. Now, when I actually went to Greece and I explored getting a visa while I was there, I found that there were some different requirements and different documents that they were asking for when you were actually in the country as opposed to if you were applying from your home country. So let's talk about the general requirements. The biggest hurdle you're going to have to overcome is you need to be earning at least 3,500 euros per month after you're taxed on your money. So if you want to travel with your partner or spouse, that's fine, but you're going to need to have an additional 20% for your spouse, and if you have children, you're going to need to have an additional 15% per child, which means you're going to have at least 4,200 euros per month if you're traveling just the two of you, you and your partner, or if it's a family of three, you're going to need to have at least 4,725 euros per month. Okay, so what documents do you need in order to get this? Well, first you're going to have a declaration letter of you attesting that you're not going to work for any Greek company, you're not going to draw benefit from the Greek government, and you're not going to work for a company other than the one that you're talking about in your application. You're also going to need proof of employment. So that means a letter, it can either be your work contract, it can be a letter from your employer kind of stating that you can work remotely. So you also need a proof of employment. This is a two-pronged test. One, it has to show that you're employed, so it can be a work contract. But you also want to pair that with something attesting that you can actually do your job remotely. That can be a letter from your boss, it can be a letter from the company at large, or it might be written into your job description period. Now here's where one of the wrinkles comes in. If you work for yourself or if you're a freelancer, you want to be able to show them that your entire business is based outside of Greece. Let's say you're a consultant from the US, you want to probably have incorporated your LLC somewhere in the US. You want to show them the incorporation documents, the registration. If you've been around for a few years, you want to show them the tax returns or tax filings of that actual entity. And then in any way possible, show them that your income is actually derived from non-Greek sources. So if you were a consultant in the US, show them that your clients are generally based in the US or other places that's just outside the Greek borders. However you want to do that, you can get as creative as possible, but the reality is you really just want them to not even remotely question the idea that you're earning all your money from outside of Greece. Let's run down the additional documents that you'll need. You'll need a valid passport. You'll need health insurance that's valid in Greece. Most people will do this under travel insurance, which is sufficient. You'll need a passenger locator form, a return flight ticket, medical certificate. We'll get into that in a minute. And then you'll also need a proof of a clean criminal record. So the two that might be a little bit confusing in there is what is sufficient in terms of medical records and what is sufficient in terms of a criminal background check. In my experience, for the medical check, all you needed was to go to a doctor and have them say that you have a clean bill of health. Really what they're looking for is to ensure that you don't have any highly transmissible diseases. And at the time of recording, COVID does not fall into that category. For the criminal background check, they really just want to know that you're pretty clean in most of the places you've been. If you live in the US, getting the criminal background check is actually pretty easy. All you have to do is go on the FBI's website, submit your information, and within about 24 hours, they'll get you a report back of any smudges on your criminal record. Hopefully, that comes back completely clean, and you'll be off to the races. One of the requirements that they've come out with recently is a requirement to have a proof of accommodation. Now, if you're a digital nomad, this might not make much sense to you, because the idea is to be mobile, to be able to bounce around and to enjoy everything a place has to offer. But it seems that some of the embassies are requiring you to have an actual rental contract prior to applying to get the visa. So to me, this doesn't make sense for two reasons. One, why would I sign a 12-month rental agreement if I didn't even know I was going to be granted the visa? And two, it kind of defeats the purpose of being a digital nomad. That said, I would definitely check with your consulate and make sure to inquire about what the requirements are prior to submitting your application. So you're going to need a few more things like basic passport photos and all the other things that you need for just basic visa applications. I'll leave a link in the description to a bunch of articles that actually have really detailed lists of everything that you'll need in order to apply for and successfully get the visa. Once you submit your application, you should generally hear back within about 10 days of whether your application has been successful or not. So the question remains, should you apply? Well, I can tell you, having spent some time there over the summer, it is so fun. If you go and you find your group, you can have an amazing time exploring an amazing country. Amazing food, amazing people, amazing culture. The internet speeds are good. There's cafes and co-working spaces everywhere. There's a vibrant social community of people who want to mix and mingle and explore. Greece is a really, really incredible place to work remotely from. Have fun exploring. And if you want to learn a bit more about some of the other digital nomad visas that are out there, click on one of our other videos.